Take a step back for a moment. Pull yourself away from the highlight reels, the birthday tributes, the carefully curated social media timelines, and just look at the cold, unvarnished reality sitting right in front of you. Year 23. 23 years of professional basketball, 2 decades of dominance, of debates, of milestone after milestone being rewritten in real time. A resume so long and so decorated that the mere act of summarizing it feels inadequate. And yet, when the final buzzer rang out on this latest chapter of the LeBron James story, the Los Angeles Lakers were not celebrating. They were not advancing. They were not making noise about another deep playoff run. They were walking off the floor, heads down, having been swept in 4 straight games by the Oklahoma City Thunder. 4 games, 4 losses, no wiggle room, no fight back. No forcing a Game 5 to show the league they belonged. Just 4 games, 4 defeats, and a postseason that ended before most fans had even fully settled into the rhythm of the playoffs. And yet somehow the man at the center of it all does not see it as a failure. That is where this story begins. That is where the real conversation lives. Not in the highlight packages, not in the tribute videos, not in the breathless commentary about longevity and legacy and all the things LeBron has accomplished across 2+ decades in this league. The real story lives in the gap between what happened on the floor and what LeBron James said about it when the microphones were in his face. But before we get to his words, let us anchor ourselves in the numbers, because the numbers don't have agendas. The numbers don't care about narrative. The numbers simply are what they are. Over the last 3 seasons, the Los Angeles Lakers have won a grand total of 6 playoff games, not 6 series, 6 individual games, cumulative, across 3 full postseason appearances. In that same span, they have won exactly 1 playoff series, a single series victory spread across 3 years of postseason basketball. And this latest season put the most emphatic possible bookend on that stretch, because they didn't just lose a series, they were swept. 4 games, 4 losses, an average margin of defeat of 16 points per game across the series. Oklahoma City didn't just beat the Lakers. They dominated them. They controlled them. They handled them with the kind of calm authority that a top team exercises over an opponent it has already figured out before the series even begins. 16 points per game on average. That is not a competitive series that happened to tilt in one direction. That is a statement. That is one team telling another in the clearest possible terms that there is a significant and real gap between where they are and where the Thunder are right now. And in the one game that came closest, the elimination game, Game 4, the game where the Lakers had their best chance to fight back and make OKC earn it, LeBron James had his worst performance of the entire series.
I've never been a third option in my life. So to be able to, thrive in that role for that period of time and then have to step back into the role that I've been accustomed with over my career, over my life, playing a sport, and be able to thrive under that. And then just my teammates allowing me to lead them under extreme circumstances, that was pretty cool for me.
Not in terms of raw points, not just in the box score, but in terms of actual impact on the game. His plus minus on that night was -17. In a game the Lakers lost by 5 points. Every other starter was playing to near neutral or better. Rui Hachimura was -2. DeAndre Ayton was -2. Austin Reeves finished at -6. Marcus Smart was actually a positive presence, finishing at +5. And LeBron, the centerpiece, the reason people tuned in, the player being celebrated for his historic longevity, was -17. And then came the moment.
And then have to step back into the role that I've been accustomed with over my career, over my life, playing a sport, and be able to thrive under that. And then just my teammates allowing me to lead them under extreme circumstances, that was pretty cool for me. Like I said, I think after the Houston series, to be able to win a playoff series with some guys that, one, either never been in the playoffs before, and 2, never won a playoff series before.
Late in that fourth quarter, with about 20 seconds remaining, the ball in his hands, a legitimate look at the basket that could have given the Lakers the lead and kept the season alive, LeBron missed. Oklahoma City grabbed the rebound. They hit their free throws. The buzzer sounded. Season over. Series over. Another early exit officially added to the record. Now, great players miss shots. That truth requires no argument. Every elite competitor across every sport has failed in a critical moment at some point in their career. Missing a shot is not the indictment. The moment alone does not define the conversation. But when you place that missed shot inside a -17 performance, inside a 4-game sweep, inside a 3-year stretch that produced just 6 total playoff wins and 1 series victory, it stops being a single missed opportunity and starts becoming something else entirely. It becomes a symbol, a snapshot that captures something much larger than one shot in one game, and it lands with far greater weight when, in the immediate aftermath of being swept, the player holding the ball publicly rejects the idea that any of this constitutes a disappointment. "I'm not looking at my year as a disappointment, that's for damn sure." Those were his words, said with conviction, said without hesitation, said as if a 4-game sweep following 3 years of 6 total playoff wins was simply another chapter in an evolving journey rather than a result that demanded serious, painful reflection. Now step back even further and think about what that statement reveals, because it is not simply a quote. It is a window into competitive psychology. And when you hold that window up next to the standard set by the competitors LeBron has spent his entire career being compared to, what you see on the other side is striking. Pat Riley, a man who has viewed greatness from every possible vantage point as a player, as a head coach, as an executive architect of championship teams, once offered what might be the most precise and honest distillation of elite competitive mentality ever spoken aloud. He said, simply and without embellishment, there's winning and then there's misery. That is the whole equation. That is the entire psychological framework of the true alpha competitor. Winning is expected. Winning is assumed. Winning is necessary and normal, almost like breathing, something consumed and then immediately set aside as you prepare to win again. But losing is misery, and misery is the fuel. Misery is the thing that refuses to let you rest. Misery is what makes the Jordan rules possible. Misery is what made Kobe Bryant a presence in the gym at 4 a.m. for 2 decades. Think about Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowl rings, more championships than any individual franchise in NFL history, the most decorated quarterback to ever play professional football in America. And yet, when Brady has been candid about what stays with him most, about what occupies the quiet spaces of his mind now that his playing career is finished, it is not any of those 7 championships. It is the loss. The one that got away when his team was undefeated and the perfect season slipped through their fingers in the final moments of the Super Bowl. That is the loss Brady carries. That is his misery. That singular defeat resonates more deeply within him than 7 triumphant nights ever could, because that is how the most driven competitors in sports history are built. They do not find peace in the journey. They find torment in the losses, and they convert that torment into championships. Jordan never lost an NBA Finals, 6 trips, 6 wins. The entirety of his championship career was built on that uncompromising standard. Kobe won 5 championships, and his public reaction to every failure along the way was never measured, never tempered, never framed through the comfortable lens of personal growth and perspective. It was visible fury, visible hunger, a very obvious and very raw inability to accept defeat as anything other than completely intolerable. And LeBron James, emerging from a 4-game sweep, says this was not a disappointment. He went further. After the elimination, he did not dwell on the losses. He pivoted to the things he found meaningful about the season. He spoke about being placed in unfamiliar roles, about adapting, about finding value and navigating circumstances he described as new and challenging. He highlighted winning the first-round series as a genuine source of pride, pointing specifically to the fact that many of his teammates had never experienced a playoff series victory before.
I'm not looking at, my year as a disappointment. That's for damn sure. Especially, I was put into some positions that I've never played in my career before, actually in my life.
To be in a bunker, to be in a foxhole with guys like that, he said, that was pretty awesome. He also spoke about operating as a third option within the team's offensive structure, describing it as something he had never experienced before in his life, in his playing career, at any level of basketball. "I've never been a third option in my life," he said. He described adapting to that role and then transitioning back into his more traditional leadership position as something he found deeply fulfilling. He called it pretty cool. But here is where the record speaks up. Because history does not support the idea that functioning as a third option was unprecedented territory for LeBron James. There was a specific and well-documented period of his career when he was in his late 20s, when he was already a back-to-back league MVP, when he participated in an NBA Finals series operating as precisely that, a third option. It happened. It is in the record. It is not disputable. So the framing of the season's experience as something without parallel in his career simply does not survive contact with the facts, but beyond the factual inconsistency, the more revealing element is the emotional posture, the pride in adapting, the satisfaction in a new role, the warmth with which he described a season that ended in a 4-game sweep, the language of a man who has made genuine peace with results that would have driven other competitors to an off-season of furious and consuming rededication. And that is the heart of the debate that will not go away, no matter how many records he breaks, no matter how many birthdays he plays through, no matter how many analysts line up to praise his longevity. The debate is about wiring. LeBron claims he hates losing.
To be able to win a playoff series with some guys that, one, either never been in the playoffs before, and two, never won a playoff series before. You know, to be in a bunker, to be in a foxhole with guys with that like that, that was pretty awesome too. So
he has said it. He said it even in the aftermath of this sweep, working it into his public comments as a kind of qualifier before pivoting back to the positives. "Even though I hate losing, obviously," he said almost as an aside. But does the surrounding language support that claim? Because a man who genuinely hates losing with the depth and ferocity of a Jordan or a Kobe or a Brady doesn't surface from a sweep talking about how awesome it was to share a foxhole with teammates who had never won a series before. A man driven to his core by the hatred of defeat doesn't describe a 4-game elimination as a season he wouldn't categorize as a disappointment. The words and the claimed feeling are pulling in opposite directions. And when words and actions and public posture consistently diverge from a stated internal experience, eventually the observable evidence has to take precedence. This was LeBron's 4th sweep of his career, the 4th time across a long and celebrated career that he has been eliminated from the playoffs without winning a single game. And it was the 8th time in his NBA career that he has exited the postseason in 5 games or fewer. 8 times. When you are operating in the same conversation as Jordan and Kobe, when your name is invoked alongside theirs, not occasionally but constantly, when the GOAT debate has been attached to your career for over 15 years, those numbers are not footnotes. They are central chapters. They live in the permanent record alongside everything else, and they invite questions that demand honest, uncomfortable engagement. Now, this is not a simple conversation. It never has been. LeBron James at year 23 is doing something that has no meaningful modern precedent. No player in the post-Jordan era has sustained this level of performance for this long. The longevity itself is a legitimate story. The fact that he is still leading playoff teams, still posting competitive numbers, still being the primary reason people tune in to Lakers games is genuinely remarkable and deserves genuine acknowledgement. But professional sports operates on a merciless and simple standard. You either advance or you go home. You either win or you don't. And the playoffs exist specifically to strip away everything else and force a clear answer to that question. 6 wins across 3 years is the answer the last 3 postseasons have provided. 1 series victory across that stretch is the answer. A 4-0 sweep by 16 points per game is the answer this latest postseason provided. Oklahoma City is ascending. They are young, cohesive, hungry, and they made the Lakers look their age throughout this series. They didn't need a 7th game. They didn't need overtime heroics. They didn't need a miraculous defensive stop or a contested buzzer beater. They went about their business methodically, and they handled LeBron's team with a comfort and a clarity that suggested the outcome was never really in serious doubt. And in Game 4, the one opportunity the Lakers had to show the league something about their character and their competitive resolve. The player who has spent 2 decades being positioned as the most complete basketball mind of his generation. The player whose court vision and basketball intelligence are cited regularly as defining elements of his greatness, finished at -17, missed the go-ahead shot with 20 seconds left, watched Oklahoma City close the door, then stood at the podium and said it was not a disappointment. There are 2 ways to process that. You can process it through the generous lens, acknowledging the career, the longevity, the impossible standard of comparison, the reasonable argument that a man in year 23 has earned the right to find meaning in the journey rather than measuring every outcome against a championship standard. That argument exists in good faith. It is not without merit. Or you can process it through the competitive lens, the Riley standard, the Brady standard, the Jordan and Kobe standard, the standard that says winning is breathing and losing is misery, and there is absolutely no version of a 4-game playoff sweep that gets filed under anything other than unacceptable. LeBron James has made his choice clear. He has told you in his own words, without ambiguity, how he has processed this. He does not see it as a disappointment. He sees growth, adaptation, meaningful shared experience, and a season worth reflecting on positively. Michael Jordan would never have said that. The question would not have even made sense to him. Kobe Bryant would have needed no statement because the look on his face in the immediate aftermath of any playoff sweep would have communicated everything without a single word needing to be spoken. Tom Brady would have filed it alongside the undefeated season that got away, and it would have haunted him every single day until he had the opportunity to respond to it on the field. That is the gap. It is not a gap in talent. It is not a gap in intelligence. It is not a gap in skill or basketball IQ or physical gifts or even competitive record when measured in raw championships. 4 titles is not a small number. It is a legendary number by any objective measure. The gap is in what defeat feels like at the deepest level. The gap is in whether losing is a wound that never fully closes or something that can be contextualized into a larger and more comfortable framework. Because the greatest competitors this generation has witnessed are defined not just by what they won, but by what losing cost them emotionally, by how much it hurt, by how loudly it demanded a response, by how completely and totally they refused to let it become anything less than absolutely intolerable. LeBron James has 8 postseason exits in 5 games or fewer. He has 4 sweeps. He has 6 playoff wins in 3 years. He has 1 series victory across that same stretch. And he has publicly, clearly, and without apology told the world that he does not view the latest chapter of that record as a disappointment.
I guess when you get like over 40, you start forgetting shit that happened. So I don't even remember many of the last times walking off the court, but
the scoreboard exists, the numbers exist, the -17 in an elimination game exists, the missed go-ahead shot with 20 seconds left exists, and somewhere between his own framing of this season and the merciless arithmetic of what actually happened on the floor, the legacy conversation continues to unfold. It is not resolved. It will not be resolved in a post-game press conference or a social media post or an off-season narrative. It will be resolved by time and by history and by the permanent record that does not negotiate and does not offer comfort and does not care about perspective. 4 sweeps, 8 early exits, 6 wins in 3 years, 1 series victory. Pat Riley said it best, and he said it decades ago, and it has never stopped being true. There is winning, and then there is misery. The greatest competitors in the history of this sport chose misery. They lived there. They let it define them. They refused to leave until they had turned it into something else entirely. LeBron James says this season was not a disappointment. That tells you everything you need to know about the difference.